In Chapter 5 of Black Myth Wukong, there is a secret cave that you can open up by defeating very specific enemies. I'll be walking you through every single one of those locations for these specific enemies and the rewards you get for completing this secret area. And thankfully, as soon as you start this level, you pretty much run right into this questline. As soon as you enter into this level, you're going to come across the Woods of Ember Ashen Pass 1. This is going to be your very first fast travel location. Now from this location, you obviously just want to progress the level like you normally would until you come across this big area where there's a bunch of people fighting, and you're going to quickly come across a hill where you'll see the Pale Axe Stalwart fighting an enemy. All you have to do is defeat him in one-on-one combat, or just defeat him in combat in general, to have him stop fighting long enough to actually have a conversation with you. If you can't interact with him right away after you do defeat him, make sure all the other enemies on this lower area of this first section of Chapter 5 are defeated. That will allow you to actually interact with him. Now the conversation you have with him is pretty straightforward. He tells you about 5 specific carts that you need to destroy that will allow you to get into a very specific cave. Thankfully, the very first cart that you're looking for is actually just up the hill where you're actually talking to him. Now this very first cart is very easy to defeat. There is also a ledge above the cart that you can jump onto and get behind this cart to make this fight even easier for you, but defeat this cart any way you want to. And let's move on to the second cart location. For the second cart, progress the game until you get the Height of Ember Woods of Ember fast travel point. From here, you're going to need to continue on the main path of this particular chapter. You're going to very quickly get interacted with a boss that is going to be blocking a pair of doors. Once you defeat the boss, you can now go through these doors. Once you're through these doors, you're very quickly going to be attacked by the next cart that we're looking for. Now there's 2 ways to actually get down to this cart. One is actually going through a whole cave system, defeating a bunch of enemies and going the long way, or if you have enough health, you can actually jump off the bridge right in front of the cart. Either way, it's up to you. Now actually defeating this cart is not very hard. The only annoying factor of this fight is the narrow path that you have to fight it on. Outside of that, once you defeat this cart, we can move on to the third location. You can find the third cart in the Furnace Valley, more specifically the Valley Entrance fast travel point. Now something to make mention is that you don't actually need to fight this particular cart. It's actually already going to be defeated. I'm including it here so you don't get confused that this is one of the 5 that you need to fight. So the easiest way to look at this particular cart is that it is already defeated. You don't have to do anything. Though the person that's inside of the cart is part of a much longer questline, which I'll have a video on as soon as I can publish it. But again, count this as a defeated cart, and let's move on to the 4th location. Now this 4th location is actually impossible to miss because it's right after you go through a main boss battle inside of this chapter. So all you have to do is defeat that boss, which you have to do anyway to progress this chapter, and go up the hill to find the Crimson Silver cart. Once again, this cart is not going to be all that difficult, though he is going to be a little bit stronger than the first 2 carts you actually had to fight. So keep that in mind when you're going against this boss. Once this cart is defeated, you want to interact with our bull friend once again. Now if he isn't here, you may want to go and reload the area, rest and save, and come back to this particular point, or you may need to go back to the beginning of the chapter and interact with him there to make sure he moves to this particular point. He may also not be here if you didn't exhaust his dialogue at the first location, so make sure you go back and do that. I've seen a couple different bugs that people have run into with him transporting to these different locations, so I want to make sure I mention them here. Whenever he does finally make it to this particular point inside of the game, make sure you exhaust his dialogue once more, and then we can make our way to the 5th and final cart location. Progress your game even further until you get to the Field of Fire Ashen Pass number 3. From here, it's going to be a very long run because you have to get rid of a fire wall and also a giant metal ball that can one-shot kill you. In your first playthrough of this chapter, in this particular section that we're running through, you're going to have a giant metal ball that is going to try and run you down, and you need to jump out of its way. All you have to do is progress to the very end of this path, and the metal ball will be taken out. Now at the same time, there's also going to be a lot of fire around this area. One particular spot that you'll be going through to actually get to the cart has a wall of fire. As soon as you take out the metal ball, the wall of fire will also be taken out. So it's a 2-for-1 deal. You know you're in the right spot when you see a giant slope going downhill. All you have to do is progress this entire area, this extra section, until you get to another fast travel point. Now there's a lot of different stuff in this area that can easily distract you, sidetrack you, and also a bunch of different mini bosses that you can interact with and easily die from if you're not prepared. So just keep that in mind as you're watching this pathing. My recommendation is either take your time and defeat all these enemies, get those extra levels, or speed past every single one of these enemies to get to the next fast travel point. And thankfully, when you get to this next fast travel point, it is going to be right next to where you need to defeat the final cart. This particular fast travel point, if you're coming back later on in the game, is called the Field of Fire Cooling Slope. And from this cooling slope, all you have to do is progress forward to where you're going to see a giant cliff face with another giant cart right in front of it. This is obviously going to be the final final cart that you need to defeat. Now, I'm not going to spoil this actual fight for you, but just so you know, this is by far going to be the hardest cart you are going to fight inside of this level. Once you have defeated this final cart, you will see our bull friend on the edge of the arena. Interact with him to basically complete the quest line that you just went through. Now, at the same time, he's going to point at the giant gate at the back of the arena that you need to go and interact with. Interacting with this giant ice wall, this giant door, is going to open up that cave that we're talking about. Inside of this cave, you can see a couple different things. What you want to focus on is a giant pillar. Interact with that giant pillar is going to take you to the actual cave that we're looking for. I'm not showing it to you here because it's very obvious what the pillar is going to look like, and I don't want to spoil anything inside of the cave. There's also no real reason to show you checkpoints inside of the cave that we're going for because it's just a straight path, and there really is only a few fast travel points that, again, is very easy to come across. So I don't want to spoil anything for you, so enjoy the boss fights in this secret cave. But to at least show you what you can get by completing this cave is a whole bunch of very special crafting material like the Bull King's Iron Horn, which is used to craft some very nice armor. You get the Bishui Beast bit, which as you can see is also very unique to use as a crafting piece. You will get a couple pieces of fine gold thread, which as you know is very useful in upgrading and actually creating unique armor. Celestial ribbon, which is also very hard to come by, which is great for upgrading and creating unique armor. You also get this very unique curios, the Basket of Fire and Water, which is very helpful in certain regions of the game if you want to experiment with a build or not. You should now also have the ability to craft this legendary staff, the Bishui Beast staff. As you can see, it uses the Bishui Beast bit, as we just talked about a second ago. Very good staff if you don't have other more powerful staffs at the moment. Highly recommend using this one if you don't have some of the mythical staffs yet as you progress through the game the very first time. And finally, and arguably the best thing you get from completing this cave is going to be the Bull King's armor set. As you can see from the first get-go, it's going to have a very high defense, going to be a mythical set of armor that's definitely worth going after. It's a really cool looking set. I think it's probably the best looking set of armor inside the game personally, but it does cost a lot of high-end, very rare materials, so it's something to keep in mind if you don't want to go for this one, or if you would rather upgrade some other armor sets. Totally up to you. Still worth going after and having the ability to craft this set of armor. Out of all the secret areas inside of Black Myth Wukong, I think this is one of the more lackluster ones overall, but definitely some of the stronger boss fights in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think of this particular cave, the secret area, and chapter 5 down below in the comments. If you found this walkthrough guide helpful, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below so I know that you did find it helpful, and I will catch you guys in the next video.